Hey all, welcome back. Today I'm making a dessert that is a favorite for my grandpa, apple pie. And I have prepared it, more like assembled it at my old restaurant job, but today we'll be making everything from scratch besides the actual puff pastry. This apple pie is part of the American food collaboration, so there's a bunch of other YouTubers who are going to be making some great American food, well, whatever you can call American, I guess. And check out the hashtag Star Spangled Dishes for everything that's part of this collaboration. Let's first start by making a quick caramel sauce. So you want to heat your saucepan on medium heat and try finding a spatula that's actually safe at high temperatures. You don't want your spoon to melt because that sugar is gonna get very hot. So we're waiting for it to melt right now. And as soon as it starts to melt, just keep an eye. You don't want the sugar to burn. So just keep swirling that saucepan around every so often to make sure that nothing is looking off. I think sugar has a melting point of 150 degrees Celsius. Plus, unlike water, which can flick off if it's at boiling and it gets on your skin, this is gonna stick. So when you're swirling that saucepan, be extra careful. You don't want any splatter. Now once you see it golden brown, just like this, it's like bubbling and kind of foaming up, add in your molten butter. Now be careful as you're adding that butter in because it will start to foam up. If it foams up too much, slow down, let it simmer down, and then add the rest. And then just give it a couple of swirls and then do the same thing with the cream as well. Be very careful, you don't want to burn yourself. And once you've added all the cream, just go around the swirl. You can even mix it with your spatula and just let it kind of heat up and maybe like bubble up a little bit for like 1 to 2 minutes. And then just add in a splash of vanilla and then set that aside. It will be very thin at this stage and won't look like the consistency of caramel, but as it cools down, it's gonna thicken significantly. So I'm just gonna put that in a jar and then look at it later on. So our caramel is cooling down over here. It's still kind of hot, so we still have some time before we make our pie. So first, let's make our filling. So we have two types of apples that I'm using, Granny Smith and Honey Crisp apples. Now, it doesn't matter what kind of apple you use as long as they have a flesh inside that's not mushy. You don't want your apples, when you are making the filling or when you're baking the pie, for them to turn mushy. You want texture on the apples so that they can retain their shape. So we want to peel our apples. Just gonna grab my Y peeler and peel away. And then once you've peeled the apples, you want to core them and then cut them into a 1/2 inch dice. So here we have some cinnamon, nutmeg, ginger, and ground cardamom. Just give it all a quick mix and then store it in a cool, dry place. So now let's head over to our stove and we'll melt the butter in that saucepan. And then as that's melting, add in your apples, sugar, and a generous tablespoon of that homemade apple spice. We're also going to add in a splash of water to help the sugar and apple along. And once that mixture starts to simmer up, cover that saucepan and then just gently cook those apples until they soften slightly. How I like my apple pie filling to be is that the actual apples are soft, but they still have the slightest bite still in there. Lower the heat down to medium-low. Now that texture is perfect to my liking. And keep in mind, you are going to bake your apple pie. So that's additional cooking time. So taste it, and if you're happy with the apples, just give it like 5 or 10 minutes of lead time of cooking because it will turn a little softer as it bakes. Of course, it will be baking from fridge to the oven, so keep that in mind as well. Now, we just have to thicken all that sauce that's in there so that it really like helps fill up that pie. So get your cornstarch, add a splash of water in there, and then put it all in the saucepan. it will eventually thicken up and will look kind of like this. And then you can just set it aside and let it cool down. You have to make sure it's at least room temperature before you bake, because puff pastry needs to stay chilled. And if you put hot stuff in it, it's gonna kind of start to ruin it. So it's a couple of hours later and we are ready to now prepare the actual pie. Now we have puff pastry over here, and here is the apple mixture from earlier. It has cooled down and is at room temperature right now. I'm just going to roll out the pastry right on here. We're going to cut some circles, and I'm going to use this bowl as the measure. I don't remember exactly the size of the diameter right now, but I'll put that in like somewhere over here. That's good. And then add a good amount of your apple filling down the middle. And now to just form this into your pie, you want to take one edge, fold it, and you see this corner over here? You fold that and pinch it, and then you make a crinkle just like this. Same thing on this side, then on this side, then on this side, and you just keep going along the circumference. And you kind of want it to be smaller when you are forming it, because as it rises and cooks, it will expand a tiny bit. Then it's just as easy as picking this up carefully and then placing it on your baking sheet. These are now going to go into my oven at 400 Fahrenheit, heating in the convection setting for about 15 to 20 minutes. Now to plate it, I have my caramel sauce from earlier. It's cooled down quite a bit now. Put like a bit of that sauce down the bottom where the pie is gonna go. And then this dot over here is gonna prevent your pie from sliding around when you eat it. This looks truly incredible. Now this pie looks so good. Just look at how perfect that really is. And I can't wait to eat this. And I think just like anything homemade, when you put all this work into making it your own, then you really put the thought into adding spices and toppings and just like customizing it so that you enjoy it the way that you like it. Check out my caramelized banana recipe. It's a really quick dessert that also uses the apple spice we made today, and I'll see you on the next one.